Hello, and thank you for joining us. My name is Tom Pistol. I'm the National Sales Director with the Client for Life Group. Joining me on today's call is Bill Stockwell. Bill is a veteran of our industry and is our Chief Innovation and Marketing Officer, and he'll be helping assist in the Q&A as well as manning the text box for those of you that have questions as we move through today's presentation. So with that, let me go ahead and introduce the Client for Life Management System. A little background, we've been at this for almost 13 years now, and it's really evolved, obviously, as technology's changed and we've become more proficient at meeting the needs of advisors in today's space. So our system is really branded as the new foundation for practice success. It is a patented remote fractional support fintech solution really designed to help advisors and their staff increase practice revenue, run a more efficient practice, and really manage the client lifecycle for the life of the client. So let's go ahead and dive in. What we'd like to do today is provide you with an overview of our Client for Life management system. And based on what you see and hear today, what we'd like to do is ask you to complete an advisor practice assessment or discovery. This is our fact-finding tool that we use to gather just a little information about your practice to ensure that we're providing an appropriate recommendation. Our system is not a one-size-fits-all, and there are components to our system that may or may not be appropriate for your particular needs and for the goals that you're trying to accomplish. So what we'll do is we'll take that information. Keep in mind, that's normally about a 30-minute exercise. We will take that information, incorporate it into a customized deck, and present that to you on another call, which we call a deep dive. Again, the idea here is we want to make certain that we're speaking to the needs and the wants that you have specifically addressed and making a recommendation that's best fit for your practice. So let's start. We know at the end of the day, a little background on Bill and I, we've both been advisors for probably longer than we care to admit, but we understand advisors very, very well, having been in your chair. We understand advisors aren't going to continue to pay for something if it's not adding value. So we monitor results on a regular basis. We generally survey our subscribers once per year. This happens to be our survey from 2019, which we published in fairly early 2020. But unfortunately, with the pandemic and the challenges that's created, we didn't want to burden our subscribers with taking time away from their important role of communicating with clients and ask them to divert some of that time and attention to completing a survey. What I can share with you is the results have been equally as positive, if not even more so, as a result of the leverage we've been able to provide advisors in reaching out on their behalf using our fractional support solution, which we'll talk about, obviously, and making sure they were in touch with those contacts that needed their help. It's important to note that for us, obviously, as a subscription model business, retention is critically important, and subscription renewal rate are really paramount. So we're very protective of those numbers at the bottom, but obviously I think you're probably going to be impressed with the growth rates as well. So again, very, very positive results. Specifically, we just recently completed a pilot initiative with a significant broker-dealer out of the Midwest. And here are some sample results of the advisors, some of the advisors in our program. And as you can see, interestingly enough, it's not, our system certainly works in most situations, but invariably if an advisor tends to have less of an audience to work with, i.e. they have a small number of clients and or they don't have an active marketing initiative in place, results are a little bit harder to achieve. But for practices that are more established and or those that have a robust marketing initiative or two, we can really come alongside and make a will of a difference in their practice. Overall, we delivered a 27% increase. This is over a 6% period of time. So we measured before and after. We delivered a 27% increase in GDC and about a 423% ROI based on the retail price of our program. So very, very pleased with those results and moving on to bigger and better things with this particular firm. So let me start with kind of the beginning. Our system was really fundamentally built based on an initial problem, which has only gotten more profound. And that is advisors today are being asked to do more and more, and they're really being pressed for time. On average, advisors are spending about half of their day on things that really don't matter as far as generating revenue. Doesn't mean they're not important. It just means there needs to probably be a better way to get them accomplished. And that's either bringing remote support or a local assistant alongside your practice. or just frankly finding a way to delegate some of those tasks. What our system is designed to do specifically is help you in 4 critical core practice functions: client acquisition, client communication, client service, and ultimately client retention. And this is presented in a circular fashion because this is an ongoing approach to helping you manage your business. This is not a one-time fix as much as it is a change in the way you currently run your practice. Our system is designed with a balance of people, process, and technology, and it starts with our team-based approach. We actually have live human beings come alongside your practice on a regular basis to help support many of those things that are maybe distracting or pulling you away from your primary mission, which is to spend time with clients and prospects. What we're going to do is take those individuals, align them with a campaign pipeline management program that we've now patented, and that the net effect of those 2 things working together is to free you up to focus on production and ultimately fill your calendar with more qualified appointments. Now, once you have individuals in your system, either they're current clients or prospects you bring in, we want to make it very effective and efficient for you to communicate with them on a regular basis. Believe it or not, the number 1 reason clients leave advisors really has little to do with performance. It more often results from neglect, meaning that you're not able to get as much time with them as they would like, and ultimately somebody gets to them with an idea or just a little more attention, and ultimately the assets go out the back door. We're going to work and do everything we can to support you in a very effective and efficient way to mitigate some of that attrition and help build brand loyalty and client awareness. Our system is designed to run on a Salesforce platform, which is very advantageous to you in that it's available on really any platform. So you can access our system using your phone, using a tablet, desktop, laptop, really doesn't matter. Other important point is that we're not going to ask you to migrate all of your data from your current CRM, so there's not going to be that big distraction. We will obviously migrate some data, but at the end of the day, you're going to continue to work in whatever CRM you're working in today to manage your practice, and we're going to come alongside you like an app, if you will, thinking about your phone as an example. And then each week, we're going to meet with you because we think it's critically important that you have a convenient and effective way to manage results and monitor the activity that we're delivering on your behalf and that of your practice. So each week, we're going to schedule a 30-minute generally meeting, 30 minutes to an hour, depending on your level of support. And that's really your ongoing commitment to, from a time perspective in our program, once we get you through an onboarding process, which is very defined and has been scaled down to really be very precise and effective, but making certain that when you come out of that onboarding process, you're fully trained, you're confident, you're comfortable, and you're up and running and ready to go. The net effect of this system working over now 13 years in history is really twofold. We're going to help you increase revenue to your practice, and we're going to give you back some work-life balance. In many cases, I would estimate roughly 30% of our subscribers, they come to us for that almost exclusively. They're making plenty of money, but unfortunately, they don't have enough process and systems in their practice to really have the ability to get away and actually enjoy some of the fruits of their labor. So that's a big win in many cases for advisors using our system. So let me pause for just a moment and focus on a typical configuration. It's important to note our system is very scalable. It's not a one-size-fits-all. So whether you have local support staff or do not, we have an approach to support you. Ideally, because we are going to create additional activity for you, if you have local support, that's generally a very positive scenario. So let me present that to you as a typical or standard configuration where we come alongside an advisor in their practice, and whatever local support you have, whether it's full-time, part-time, or potentially even remote. We know some firms offer remote support to their advisors. We're going to engage two different roles. The first is what we call an advisor support coordinator. This is the expert in our system. We refer to them as the air traffic controller. Keep in mind, they're not a financial advisor. That's really not their job. What they are is an expert in our system, and their job is to really make certain that you're utilizing in your practice as much of the capability that we bring that is absolutely possible. There are going to be two specific roles that they're going to be responsible, and that's managing sales campaigns, which I'll get into in a moment, as well as managing task assignments. Supporting this advisor support coordinator is our appointment management team. Now, keep in mind, this is a team-based approach, whereas the advisor support coordinator is assigned to your practice and is meeting with you each and every week. They become obviously intimately involved in knowing what's going on in your practice and helping support the initiatives that you felt were most important. And so they begin to be an extension of your team. Supporting them is this appointment management group that's effectively using the scripts that we work with you to develop around the different campaign ideas that are used to engage both clients as well as prospects in a conversation around a topic that should be important to them and one where you have an area of expertise and have decided that is something that's important for you to share with your clients and prospects. So collectively, we like to refer to this as the power of four, but again, I don't want to overplay the configuration because it is highly customizable. Okay, I mentioned the assignment of tasks. One of the ways that we help do that through our advisor support coordinator is by introducing a tool called Mobile Assistant. We like to call it Talk It or One and Done. The idea here is that in between meetings, it's not uncommon for advisors to make mental notes and then later in the week try and summarize all that and make certain that information gets into the system. And invariably, things get lost. So what we're going to do is provide you, it's an optional feature with most of our solutions. It's included in our top line solution, a tool called Mobile Assistant. It's an app that resides on your smartphone that allows you to effectively verbalize through filling out a script or a template exactly what happens in a meeting and or important phone conversation. We will help you capture the information, the nuance of that meeting in detail. That information is then transcribed through this system, comes into our application, our C4L application, and the advisor support coordinator then, based on instructions that have been developed through the onboarding process, has the ability to assign various tasks to the members of your team, whether it's a local assistant you have, whether it's yourself, whether it's our appointment management team. It's also going to, as well as capture that history and log that information, it's going to deliver an etiquette message thanking the client or prospect. That can be either a letter or an email coming out from you. Any appointments that you have agreed to or requested that be scheduled, that can be a task assigned to our appointment management team. And any opportunities that may have been discussed with the client or prospect, whether they be a current opportunity or something that can be developed in the future, there's an opportunity to log that in a place where it's going to bring it back to you based on the calendar. Again, if there's nothing to do with it today, but there is in 6 months, you don't want to forget about it. Let's face it, all of us get busy and you don't want to miss that opportunity. So in essence, 5 months down the road, you'll get a reminder. That'll come back and it'll be something that gets discussed in that weekly sync meeting. So again, very powerful tool, has a lot of efficiency. Advisors, obviously there's some learning involved here, but once they're familiar with it and become users of the system, they really become big advocates for this system. Keep in mind, all of this activity that we're talking about gets memorialized in our system and gets displayed to you in a series of dashboards, which is the subject of much of the time spent each week in the weekly sync meeting. Okay, the second very important function of the advisor support coordinator has to do with the delivery of sales campaigns. And we call them sales campaigns, but they can actually be service related as well. And so again, think of a campaign as an idea or topic that you would like to use as a means for scheduling conversations or meetings with your clients and prospects. They could be service related, like client reviews. They could be more prospecting oriented, like a referral or like a life insurance or a long-term care or Medicare supplement, or it could be seminar related. Maybe you've got some marketing activities that are generating names and you need support in following up on those names. This is a very important aspect of our program. I'm going to rely on my partner, Bill, here. He's really passionate about this, being that he's the head of our marketing department. He's got some intelligence I'd love for him to share with you. Bill?
Great. Thanks, Tom. Yeah, I mean, I think in our experience, we've seen this is an area advisors just typically struggle. And marketing today has really got to be more strategic than ever. And it starts with relevant content. It starts with a process, follow up, and lastly, and most importantly, the measurement of that. And so what we're help you do is to be able to segment your book effectively to make sure that we're putting the right message in front of the right audience. And when we're able to do that consistently and then nurture that prospect with relevant content, the ROI in your marketing efforts really go through the roof. In fact, what we like to say is less becomes more. We all know marketing events are expensive and time consuming. When we work with you, you can actually do less events because you'll get more out of them.
Thanks, Bill. You couldn't be more spot on. Advisors tend to be, and again, having been an advisor, as has Bill, and you kind of do the ebb and flow. You market, you get busy with your schedule, and you're running meetings, but obviously you're not marketing at the time, and so you have these big ups and downs. What we're able to do is help support that and make that a much more a much smoother process. But because we're able to provide that back end follow-up and support using our appointment management team, you're able to monetize those activities to a much greater extent, as Bill's pointed out. Less does truly become more. So the message is going to go out generally via email. Obviously, if you're doing a seminar, you're doing that face-to-face and or virtually. But once you have those names in the system as new prospects, assuming a seminar campaign was what you were running there, then the appointment management team is going to call them and engage with them in a conversation, and utilizing questions that we work with you to develop, we're going to qualify and classify them, ultimately getting them to a decision point. And as you might imagine, we rarely, just like you, we rarely get them on the first attempt. So we've got a process in place to reach out to them on multiple occasions, leaving voicemail messages that are customized each time, as well as emails in between. And obviously our success rate goes up dramatically as we've got better exposure and more attempts. And ultimately the goal here is to get those individuals to schedule a meeting with you to talk about that topic that you've introduced to them that should be appropriate for them. One of the other things that Bill likes to speak to is making sure that you're messaging people with relevant messaging. And certainly that's something we can help you target. Okay. Important distinction. We are not top of the funnel lead generation in that we're going to bring you new names of people to talk to. Our system is really designed and caters to helping you better and more effectively communicate with your current clients and any prospects that you bring into your system, into your sphere of influence via way of whatever marketing referral source that you're using. And so what's happening here is when those names come in, depending on whether it was a prospecting campaign and or a service related campaign, we're going to ask them a series of questions. And ultimately the goal is going to be to get them scheduled to meet with you. Now, if it is a prospecting effort, the types of questions that we're going to build into the script are going to focus on determining their level of interest, their decision-making authority, excuse me, whether or not there are funds available, and if so, are they ready to meet? And based on their answers, our patented system will take them deeper through this sales funnel to a decision point where they're either going to get one of three outcomes. They're either going to schedule a meeting, which is what we're shooting for, and have a great track record of delivering. They're going to say no, thank you, which can keep in mind, if they're a client or a prospect and they say no, thank you, that doesn't mean they're never going to do business with you if they're a prospect, or that they don't like you if they're a client. It just means that right now they're not interested in that topic that was presented to them. So we're going to help you communicate with them on a regular basis through our monthly drip, so we can continue to keep your name in front of them, but that would mean the end of that particular campaign. So we either get them scheduled or they opt out and say no thank you, and we call that a no-go. Or in some cases, if it's a pure prospecting effort, you may find that you have prospects that have basically been in either a long-standing relationship, or they have they don't anticipate ever moving from their current advisor, and so they suggest that you might want to take them out of your database. Well, we're never going to take anyone out of your system, but we will report that information back to you. Again, all of this activity, all of this phone work that we're doing, all the email messaging that we're doing on your behalf is all logged in the system. So you'll see that on the dashboards that get reviewed on a weekly basis during that weekly sync meeting. But again, all of this activity, think about it, all of this is happening while you're basically able to stay focused on seeing clients and prospects. So this is really no impact on your schedule, your day at all at this point, other than you're going to see appointments landing on your schedule. Okay, different types of campaigns in the campaign management process. First of all, it really starts with you. What is it that you're passionate about talking with your clients about today? And we know that over time, things change. As tax laws change, as your clients get older, their needs are going to change. But we want to help you start with what's the offer that you want to make to your clients? What's the topic that you want to introduce to them? We help you through developing the scripting. And again, all of this is very customizable and obviously needs to be compliant. We ideally like to help you identify some collateral, what we call info relational material or warm-up material, because I'm sure, like me, most of you have heard clients say, well, can you just send me something? Well, the last thing we want, and the last thing you likely want, is to be turned into a fulfillment house where you're sending out a lot of information. But if we can be proactive and identify some material that would be relevant to that particular campaign in advance, and make certain that either you and or your staff is loaded with that, having that ready to go. If indeed we get that question, what happens is we'll send that back to you or your local support staff as a task. And once that task is completed, i.e. you've sent the material to them in an email, again, didn't have to create anything. All you do is send an email. That now puts that work back on our plate, and we're going to reach back out to them after a required number of days, after they've had a chance to review that material, and ultimately work to continue to get them scheduled. And again, all of this activity gets tracked. So this is a very powerful system. It's generally designed to play offense and help you promote the ideas that are that should resonate with your clients and prospects. But there's also an element of defense here. If you think about your existing clients, and I'll just use as an example, a client review campaign as one category, where you can invite clients to meet and have an annual review, but in some cases you're going to have clients that resist that. They don't feel they have a need for it for various reasons. And if it's been 2 or 3 years since you've seen a client, and ultimately there's a problem, and you've not seen them, that could be problematic from a compliance perspective. However, if you've got documentation, i.e. our system that's tracking all of this activity, and you can show a history of inviting them to meet, phone calls and emails that have gone to them, encouraging them to meet, and ultimately they chose not to engage, well, now you've got a leg to stand on. So although we're really designed to play offense, there is an element of defense here as well. We think that's a very, very important backstop in this day and age where compliance is very, very important. Not that it hasn't been in the past, but even more so today. So let me talk you through just briefly a list of campaigns. We have more than 100 campaign concepts already developed that have been executed over the years of our service being available. And this is just a partial list. It's important to note that, again, we've got over 100 ideas, but if there's a campaign idea that you have, a topic that you want to promote, or a service that you're looking to promote that we haven't done, we're happy to work with you independently to create that. There's no additional cost for that. And we'd love to put that in our library. And most advisors that we work with that help us design new campaigns are open to sharing. But again, that's a question that we can certainly cover off on down the road. But the important point is, if we don't already have something, we're happy to work with you. It's usually a very streamlined process to help you get the exact messaging that you're looking for. Okay, I'd like to transition just a little bit. Obviously, that's a very important, that front end piece is very important towards helping drive advisor engagement with clients and prospects. Now, once you have clients and prospects come into your program, into your system, it's important that you continue to develop name recognition and branding, keep your name in front of them. And so one of the ways that we help you do that is through our Trusted Advisor program, specifically engaging our monthly drip. This is a very different type of messaging. Most advisors today that are doing newsletters and or monthly or quarterly messaging, it tends to be market commentary and a little more financial oriented. What this messaging is designed to do is really go after that, less technical, less numbers side of the brain, and more the emotional side. It's not, I wouldn't call it touchy-feely, but these are generally educational, positive, motivational, sometimes inspirational messages that really do separate you and cause your clients to think of you in different terms. Bill, do you want to speak to that a little bit?
Yeah, Tommy, you're all around it. Bottom line, I think we do a great job of sending out a lot of left brain oriented material. And what we do intentionally is really begin to talk up to the right half of your client's brain. It's all about brand awareness. It's about being a multi-hemisphere relationship. And so what we do through our messaging, through Tom's point, inspirational, life hack, educational, motivational, we just tap into the emotion side of the relationship with the client. And ultimately what happens over time is now they're getting both sides of their brain stimulated. We always talk about share of wallet. I always liked it from a marketing perspective to talk about share of mind. And so this helps us approach that. And you'll find that this is a very, very effective strategy with your messaging.
Terrific. Yeah, and I would tell you, we have multiple examples, numerous, I should say, even examples of advisors say, that's just not me. I don't like that kind of the messaging. And after persuading them to try it, they've come back and become some of our biggest fans because they literally get phone calls and emails from clients thanking them for this messaging because it's left such an impression. In some cases, people have actually taken it, printed it out, and put it on their refrigerator as an example. So again, it's just another way to separate you from the pack and continue to put your name in front of your clients and prospects on a very favorable basis. The next piece that we can do, we can use to help solidify the communication piece has to do with etiquette messaging, things like birthday messages, anniversary messages, and other types of life event messages around either condolences or congratulations, et cetera. We have a content library that you have access to, specifically around birthdays and anniversaries. We actually have unique messages. On the birthday side, it's from 18 to 100. On the anniversary side, it's from 1 to 60 anniversary, first through 60th anniversary. So don't have to worry about redundancies, but this can be this important point here, flexibility. This can be set up to be an email, but part of the exercise in onboarding has to do with a little bit of segmentation because you may find that you've got different clients, so call them A's, B's, and C's, or 1s, 2s, and 3s. However you like to define them, you may want to create a different experience for your A client than your B or your C client. And so there is flexibility here. So as an example, you can set individuals to receive a birthday or anniversary message via email. You can set it so that you actually get an opportunity to print that message out, put a handwritten note on it, and drop it in the mail, send it from your office. Or you may just get a notice up front letting you know, maybe this is for your top clients. Maybe you actually want to go to the Hallmark store and pick up a card, a traditional style card, put a message in it and get it in the mail to them. There's flexibility, that's the point. For the vast majority of our subscribers, they like to automate as much of this as they can so they can really focus on that A client base, which is generally where advisors spend their time anyway. It's the old Pareto principle. It's the 80-20 rule. You're going to spend 80% of your time on the 20% of your clients that drive the revenue, right? And you're going to spend the bulk of your time there. All right. Some service-related efforts. These are campaigns that run into practice. Checkup calls is very valuable. I have effectively alluded to it early on when I talked about the impact of the pandemic. And as you might imagine, advisors were really scrambling to reach out to their clients to assure them and just be a voice of reason and to let them know that things were okay, that they were watching out for their money and their protection during the pandemic, especially early on. And so we were able to create a great deal of leverage for our subscribers by reaching out and helping them make those what we call a checkup calls, just to make sure their clients were doing okay. And if there was a real need, we could actually help facilitate scheduling a meeting. But more than anything, it was just to let them know that the advisor was paying attention, that we were staying in touch. And if there was any reason why they'd need to make some changes, that we put them in touch with the advisor. So very powerful tool in this last year, especially, but certainly ongoing. Client service, again, we hope that you don't have a lot of issues in this area, but with most mature practices, client service can be pretty daunting. And not that it's all bad, it's just service. But we have a system that allows you to not only track that, but ensure that it's being worked appropriately by the various members of your team, whether it's you or the local assistant that's taking care of that. There is some accountability built in by being able to track and address these requests. Client reviews, we've touched on a fair amount, but this is very important, as you, I'm sure, appreciate if you do have a habit of scheduling client reviews, that there's a big time commitment in getting them scheduled and then ultimately preparing for them and delivering them. And if we can help take the scheduling aspect of this off of your plate or that of your local assistant, that's going to free the two of you up to really focus on the back half of which is prepping for those meetings and ultimately delivering a great meeting to your client. So this is a very powerful part of our solution. Advisors, especially, again, if you've got a reasonably decent sized book of business and a large significant number of clients, this is a real value add. And then ultimately behind the scenes, we have other campaigns that generally run things like cross-selling within your existing book of business, opportunities. Again, I've touched on both monitoring both current as well as future opportunities. That almost becomes like your work in progress or inventory. And then referrals. Most advisors, frankly, do a pretty shabby job of referrals. Not everybody, some people do them well, but they don't necessarily do them consistently. But we've got a couple of different thoughts around this. There's kind of two different approaches. One is to create a campaign to actually solicit referrals, which may be less important. It's certainly important, but where our system can come into play and really drive some results is around creating what does that referral experience look and feel like. For both the person that referred them to you, is there a thank you message that goes to them? And then ultimately, what do you deliver to the person that was referred to you? Do you send a brochure that speaks to the value or the services that your practice provides? Do you make the first attempt, and do we come behind you as an extension of your team to ultimately get them scheduled? There's a lot of flexibility here, but that's a very important campaign. Again, it's what most advisors prefer to do is if they can work from purely referral, they'd like to do that. So again, this is our Trusted Advisor program, very, very significant portion of our program. So let me transition to the third piece, and that's really the technology. As I mentioned early on, we have our system developed in a Salesforce environment. So we bring a basic Salesforce platform alongside your current CRM. We've built our C4L application, which includes the patented processes that I've alluded to, and effectively run it in the background with your system running entirely. So what we're going to do each week is we're going to share with you a series of dashboards, which is how we help you keep score and measure and monitor not only the work that we're doing, but the net result that is having in your practice. So this is what we call a directive dashboard. Again, directive being the key word. It's a high-level summary of some things that you might want to be familiar with, because it can provide some directions on your activities. Specifically, there are some alerts. There are tasks that are due, both for you as well as your team. So you can see not only your tasks and if they're due, overdue, by far, how far over are they due. Meetings that you have today as well as upcoming. So if you had an idea there or some questions there, your birthday and anniversary messaging. Very succinctly, if you clicked on the birthdays today, that blue header there, you'd actually get a report, and it would show you the two names of people, your clients or prospects that were having a birthday today. Because down below you've checked birthday emails, an email would have already gone out to them congratulating them on their birthday. But if you had a few moments, you click on birthdays today, you see the two names. One of them may be one of your better clients, and it might be worth picking up the phone and just say, I know you've already got an email from me, but I also just wanted to wish you a very happy birthday. What a nice touch that might be. What a great way to separate yourself from anybody else that might be in the space dealing with your client. And again, just one more way that you can personalize the experience. Opportunities I've talked about. So again, let me review each week. What are my opportunities that are due? And obviously you have the ability to assign a dollar value to those. And it's nice over time to be able to build this inventory and kind of get a sense for what's my future work in progress. So that's just one type of dashboard. As you might imagine, most advisors that come into our program, and again, we do this in 6-month increments. There was a time when you had to sign up for a minimum of 12 months. We've now refined that down to 6 months. And for the most part, advisors coming in deploy 3 campaigns in the first 6 months. And there's some rationale for that. Obviously, there's an onboarding process that we work you through that takes a little bit of time. But it does take some time to get them configured, get them deployed, and begin to really implement the entire system. But very quickly, you're going to begin to see results. And so it's important that we monitor the campaigns that are active. You can see the number of names that are in each campaign, the numbers that are still active, the numbers that have been no-go. The importance here is that not only can you get a bird's eye view, but you can also begin to make some decisions based on the metrics that you're seeing here. And it's from a percentage sold, how effective Are you able to get meetings based on those particular topics? And ultimately make good and maybe even better decisions from a marketing spend and resource perspective. You can see the calling results from clients versus prospects, so you can get some metrics around that. You can see the percentage or the breakdown. Again, if you have a mature clientele, in that your book is pretty large with clients and you're not actively or as active as you maybe once were at generating new prospects, it would make sense that the majority of your calls were going to clients versus prospects. But if you're in the other camp and you're fairly new and really aggressively trying to grow, you would really want to put a priority on prospecting. So you have the ability to measure and monitor some of these things. And you can also see where your active pipeline is, how many names you have, how many are, and kind of where they're at in the first 4-call process. So again, really important to keep score. You can also measure your monthly drips, how many are sent versus open, and maybe begin to get some intelligence around some themes or campaigns that might be developed there. So at the end of the day, our system is really designed to put process in place, provide you with fractional support in some of those critical areas that tend to be pulling at you from a time perspective, to give you back more time to focus on what you do best, and that's generally spend time with clients and prospects. Again, the ability to help fill your calendar with qualified meetings is paramount. We know that's, the number one reason is not that any of you are in jeopardy of failing, but it's the number one reason advisors don't achieve all they want to. It's because they generally don't spend as much time with qualified prospects as they'd like to. So we're going to really work our tail off to make certain that pendulum swings in your favor and you're able to spend more time. In some cases, like Travis below here, one of his primary goals was to spend more time with his family and travel. And so we were able to accomplish that by giving him back about 30% more time each week. So just some information to share from some of our current subscribers. At this point, advisors are saying, is this really for me? Or am I really the target audience? Well, these are some of the things that we tend to find, and I'll get even more specific in just a moment. But if you're looking to increase production and or improve that work-life balance that you have in your business today, if you're looking for more qualified appointments each week, if you're looking to build client loyalty and maybe mitigate attrition from the back half third of your book, maybe an effective way to manage the 80% that drives 20% of your revenue, we can certainly provide great support in that area. If you're looking for strategies to reduce practice overhead, this is not a system that's designed to replace your staff. In fact, it works best if you have some local support staff, again, part-time or full-time. Either way is better than none. We still work with advisors, plenty of advisors that don't have local support. But again, it's not designed to replace people. It actually, in most cases, helps. Some of our biggest fans are the assistants because, frankly, it frees them up to spend time on some of those more high-valued activities that are driving their job satisfaction and ultimately making the practice even better in the long haul. And if you're looking for ways to just increase practice efficiency through some of these tools, we think we know that it's a very powerful tool in that sense. As far as key attributes for success, we've taken some measurements even after our most recent pilot initiative. And as I mentioned early on, some advisors do better than others. We know we're not right for everyone. We're likely not right for that advisor that's maybe in the bottom 10% that isn't real sure they're going to be here in the business 12 months from now. And certainly we're not for that top 10% that's likely already well staffed up, as a very finely tuned machine, and is more of a family office type, very small numbers of clients, but very large assets under management. Our sweet spot is really that what we call movable middle. It's those advisors that have about 125 client relationships or better. They have GDC in the neighborhood of 200,000 or better, only because obviously you've got to have the ability to invest in your program, in your system, in your practice. Assets under management, there's a big correlation here, about 25 million. Either you have a significant client base, or you have a very defined marketing plan that provides a consistent influx of prospects. Obviously, our system does well when it has names to message to. Again, we're not bringing you fresh names. What we're doing is helping you more effectively manage and leverage the names that you have and that you bring into your system. And ideally, you have some administrative support. Those would be the criteria that we feel are probably most indicative of success or big success in our program. And so I would ask you to be considerate of those as you contemplate maybe taking the next step, which really is to spend about a half an hour, provide us with a little information on your practice so that we can better understand what it is that you're looking to solve or fix and improve, and ultimately give us an opportunity to come back and present that to you in a way that's going to make sense. It's going to be right for your individual needs and not really include things that aren't going to move the needle for you. So what I'd encourage you to do is make note of these two, either this website address, our clientforlifems.com website. If you go to the Contact Us tab, you'll see an advisor practice assessment link, and you can complete that form online. If for some reason you have trouble there, make note of my email address. Send me a quick email. I'll be happy to send you the link to that particular form. Once that comes in, I'll get a chance to review it, or we'll get a chance to review it, at which point we'll reach out to you and schedule that deep dive that I alluded to. And that's really what we wanted to share with you today. We'll leave this up. And at this point, we're open to taking any questions you might have about what we've discussed today. In advance, I'll thank you again very much for your time today. Thanks very much.